Good evening, everyone. Sorry again for the difficulties. Climate change keeps affecting this transmission itself. Rockabou Jody is trying to connect. In the meantime, internet is down in Gainesville. But for the moment, you've got us. You've got our team in Egypt. I'm Esteban Rodofili. Here we have Val Holly Frank and Michael Fiedler, and we'll be providing you with content today for the emission of November 12th. Today is we're approaching the end of the first week, and first week it's not quite a week. It's essentially it lasts. When did we start, Michael?
We started, I think it was on Sunday. That was day -1/day 0.
Okay. The first week is actually a week. It's from Sunday to Sunday, but the second week will be shorter. The second week will be from the 14th to the 18th. Currently what we have is that this day there is activity, but tomorrow, as we've been informed, there won't be activity, not even in the pavilions. It's likely there won't be meetings, there won't be talks. So we will concentrate our briefing on other material that we have. But essentially the atmosphere right now is wrapping up. A lot of people that come for the first week are usually not here for the second week. So probably in the next week we'll have a much calmer COP, or at least I hope. That's it's my first COP, but at least we should have a bit less people. Michael,
if you allow me to step in,
yes, I allow you.
Some of the people come for week 1, and a new group of people come for week 2. It is not like all of us who are here for both weeks. So expect that on Monday there will be a new huge crowd of people eager to learn things, because I would guess that at least half of the people who were here for the first week will simply leave today, tomorrow, and on Monday it will start all over. So it will be like a new COP version 2 again.
Thank you, Michael. That makes me immensely happy. Holly, what's your take on the current atmosphere, given that this is practically the last day of week 1?
Honestly, I've been connecting with more people on the ground, and it's been really great. I was actually able to attend the water ceremony today, and because I was like the one person from the southeast of Turtle Island or the United States, I was able to give a little blessing and be a part of it, and it got me really connected with the indigenous folks. And although the pavilion is still not the greatest, or at least not very action oriented, I've been connecting with a lot of people, just like hunting them down. I'm sure Esteban, you understand that, trying to get interviews and everything. And I sat down with one of the men who's spearheading the Vanuatu initiative, and I was able to have lunch with him and talk to him, just like I was able to have dinner with Kathy Castor last night and talk to her. So yeah, making connections and finally hearing some hopeful remarks from people who can actually make some really big change.
Fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit more about the ceremony? What did it entail? How long was it?
Yeah, it was about an hour long. It was at 8 a.m. today, so I had to be up super early and find my way around. But we were all running on Indian time. We were all there late, so I didn't have to find my way there. I found everyone on the way in. But we got there and we sat down, and it was just a lot of indigenous folks saying prayers. And of course, it was a water ceremony, so there were specific things that we were doing. And it was really great to hear from everyone. And there were actually some activists there, that one specifically is a star on the show Reservation Dogs. And if there are any Native viewers on here, or anybody who's in the know of Reservation Dogs, I know it's very popular with Native viewers because it's a great Native rep. But she was there, and she's the one who invited me to the water ceremony. And it was great to be there. just a lot of healing energy, the typical stuff from an all indigenous crowd. But afterwards, we did a little like march to the indigenous pavilion. It was like a 5-minute walk. It was nothing major, but after that, they had a panel discussion talking about indigenous women and indigenous rights, and basically just the stuff they've been talking about for a while. But there was a lot of community in it today, and we all had that like basic connection that started out earlier, and that like energy of prayer with it. So it was a lot more meaningful than just sitting up on a panel and talking about how these places are being affected. And finally, there was a little bit of hope involved, and there was actually some meaningful discussion. And of course, prayer is always beautiful. And there was a big focus on the African indigenous people who were with us, and they were the first ones who were given a chance to give remarks, because we are on their land, and it was just great to hear about indigeneity from a perspective other than that of the US's. And of course, it's always refreshing to hear very racially inclusive language, and that space was very gender inclusive, very queer, and even mention of two-spirit peoples. And it was just sort of what I've been looking for and kind of what I expected from the youth conference. But I got it this morning, and hearing them speak throughout the day, it was great. I'm excited to see what this next week brings in and who I'll get to meet then.
I was about to tell you, it's almost like everything that didn't happen thus far.
Exactly.
Unfortunately. So today we have to begin. We have an interview with Arizona State in the pavilion of Arizona State University, covering their current curricula as it regards to climate change, but also covering current actions on campus to cut emissions, and at the same time some material on the content they are showcasing in their pavilion at COP27. Michael, can we put the video?
If you allow me, I am pushing the share button right now.
I ask you.
Okay, here we are.
We are here today with Ann Nielsen, Director of Global Engagement at Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College at Arizona State University. Hi, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm an ex-resident of Florida, and I'm super excited to have this conversation.
Thank you. The first question we had for you is what changes in curricula had been ongoing at Arizona State to address climate change?
Well, I'm really pleased to report last year during the Global Climate Teach-In, our youth leaders at Arizona State were able to march to President Crow's office, and in conversation and negotiations with him, they were able to demand, and he happily agreed to establish a new policy at Arizona State University where every graduate going forward will need to take a course in sustainability to graduate from Arizona State. So this is a new initiative that's in process, but we're extremely excited at this opportunity for all of our students.
Quite remarkable. And in that sense, are there any practices put in place on campus to lower emissions at Arizona State?
Yes, if you come to Arizona State University, one of the first things you'll notice is that it's practically covered in solar panels. Being located in the desert, we take advantage of that solar energy, and it is fueling and powering a lot of the university practices. There is also, of course, recycling and various receptacles for that around campus, but as well there are a lot of gardens on campus that are growing food that we use in our campus cafes, and we have just opened a new center for planetary health to really focus on our climate futures on Earth.
Marvelous. And can you tell us a bit about what's being showcased here at your pavilion at COP27?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the Turn It Around project. It's called Turn It Around Flashcards for Climate Futures, and it was done in parallel and in partnership with UNESCO's Futures of Education report that they put out about a year ago. And what we did is we crowdsourced youth messages and youth art from around the world. We curated those with the Youth Advisory Council to develop a set of flashcards designed for teachers, policymakers, and community members, just about anyone, to use to build climate literacy. We are at a point in the Earth's history where we are the most educated on Earth, yet we are at the worst risk of climate disaster. And we know that facts and figures are important, but they're not moving the needle. So this project is really designed to reach our hearts and our minds as to begin to think about what are youth telling us, what are they expecting in their climate futures. So we asked youth questions such as, what do you learn in nature that you're not learning in school? What do you need to learn to ensure we and our planet thrive and survive? Where do you find hope and resilience? And through youth art and messages, we were able to develop this incredible set of flashcards. They're available online for free in English, French, and Spanish at www.turnitaroundcards.org. And we did this through social media, so we spoke the language of the youth. TikTok and Instagram was how we gathered all of this amazing youth voice and art.
Incredible work. And one final question. From a broader standpoint, a broader viewpoint on education, what practices might you think would be recommendable to address climate change?
Well, I think education is one of the most powerful motivators and powerful tools to mitigate climate change. So one of the things I would really like to see is that climate education, climate literacy is embedded across all K-12 standards for youth that are growing up within the educational system within the United States. Currently, right now, New Jersey is the only state in the United States that has climate standards geared at the K-12 level. California is coming on soon, but 2 states is not enough. We have too much at risk, and we need to help our youth become educated. As I've listened to youth across the conference, many of them have told us this is what they expect to see in school, and they're hoping. And we know globally youth are leaving school, striking, because why should they go to school if school is not going to educate them for the planet they're going to live on?
Amazing. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
There you have it, folks. Ann Nielsen from Arizona State University. A lot of interesting things happening on campus, and overall process to make campus greener and improve the curricula, spearheaded by students and with the support of the administration. With that, we have another interview today. We have just in the more technical realm. If you may recall from our November 4th conference, Dr. Lichstein actually addressed the issue of carbon sequestration through the ocean, and he explained that in particular there were points on how much carbon gets sequestered by each of the habitats that actually demand some degree of complexity in terms of themes. One of those aspects is the one of carbon sequestration in the ocean, and in particular as it refers to the exchange of CO2 with the sea surface. Today, we conducted an interview at the Ocean Pavilion, a pavilion integrated by several research institutions from the US, dedicated to the study of marine science. And among them, there is Dr. Edson, a meteorologist, and who is actually working on that particular aspect of the exchange of CO2 to the sea surface. Michael, can we ask for your help again?
Yes, we can.
We're here today at the Ocean Pavilion with Dr. James Edson. How do you do? Thanks for having us.
Doing very well. Enjoying this meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your research?
Yes, certainly. So I'm a senior scientist at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. I'm actually one of the few marine meteorologists at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. And really what my focus has been on is air-sea interactions, so the transfer of momentum, heat, and mass between the atmosphere and the ocean.
Wonderful. And we discussed before that you're also working at the Ocean Observatories Initiative. Would you mind telling Campus Climate Corps a little bit about your work there?
Yeah, certainly. So I like to think of it as deploying sophisticated sensors in difficult locations. So that's what we do. It's a little different than, say, the tropics. We put our sensors in the Erminger Sea, which is a very difficult place to keep things running for a year. The Gulf of Alaska, the west and east coast of the US, so mid-latitude cyclones. We also have a cabled observatory that goes down and monitors an active volcano on the seafloor. So these are the 5 arrays that I oversee, and this is in collaboration with colleagues at not only Woods Hole, but Oregon State University and the University of Washington. I would like to say the data that we collect, this is funded by the National Science Foundation, is freely available to everyone, right? And they just need to go to the Ocean Observatories Initiative, OOI website, and you'll be able to download whatever data you want.
That's wonderful. Can you give us a little bit more of precision on the measurements within the first question about your research or
Right.
what you do at the Ocean Observatories Initiative as it relates to climate change?
Right, and so I've been on several panels this week. One is the blue carbon panel, where I come into play. Now, the observatory itself measures the exchange of CO2 between the atmosphere and the ocean. But in order to do that, they need a model of the transfer velocity, it's called. And in order to get that transfer velocity, you have to measure that exchange directly between the atmosphere and the ocean. That is not easy. We usually go places where there's a big signal to noise, and in those locations we use sophisticated sensors like infrared gas analyzers and sonic anemometers. We combine those with motion correction is the other thing we have to do. But the idea being is we measure the exchange of CO2 into or sometimes out of the ocean, it depends where. If it's over a bloom, a phytoplankton bloom, it's in, they're drawing CO2 down. If it's in the equator, upwelling brings up CO2, and so there it's a source. So sinks and sources. And so what we're trying to do is, again, improve those models. Because if you do, and the models are important, because if you can't get the CO2 from the atmosphere into the ocean, model that accurately, all the other processes that we talk about, the solubility pump, the biological pump, actually adding iron to the ocean waters to draw down more CO2, all of that requires direct measurements from the atmosphere to the ocean.
Quite a lot of work. Overall, what goals did you have coming here to COP27?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to answer that question. I wasn't certain how this was going to turn out, but the observatory, for example, it's running very smoothly. The infrastructure is in place, and we're going to try to keep this running for the next 25 years. Actually, it's a long-term project. But what we need is users. And so I'm here right now to, the way I think of it is it's a network of networks. And so what we're lacking were international partners. And that's what I got here. I think I made at least 4 really good connections with people that are running similar observatories during similar problems. But we're all trying to come together to truly make this a global observatory. And that's why now it's up to me. I have to follow up. But it's been terrific.
Remarkable. Well, quite a lot of work. We're thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
And please follow the Ocean Pavilion online. The content will be available online. We'll share the link in the description.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
You're welcome.
Quite difficult work, and one of the interesting things about his work in particular is the building of connections with other institutions to exchange data and acquire data, much of which is necessary in science, especially when you're dealing with a global problem as climate change. There has been some emphasis within the content of talks at COP27. This is one of the positive aspects in the exchange of data and the coordination for some homogeneity in terms of the science that is produced, because again, much of the science that contributes to climate change, to the study of climate change, comes from different research groups, and it could have different methods, and therefore sometimes the results are not that easily comparable. So one of the important aspects in the context of sciences that dedicate themselves to study climate change is the coordination with other research groups. But moving on, and before moving on, again, I wanted to reiterate the Ocean Pavilion is comprised of different research institutions, and it has available content online. It's a pavilion that is trying to showcase as much of the content live here online. They have amazing talks, and we'll be including their link in the description of the video later on. Moving on, we've had an interesting, a very interesting and remarkable interview with the chair of the committee that led led the efforts for the Inflation Reduction Act, and this was covered by Val Holly Frank. Holly, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be able to meet Kathy Castor. I met her in 2019 at COP25, and I was able to talk to her again last night. And I believe, like I said, she invited me to sit down and have dinner with her, and we were talking. And it's honestly really refreshing to hear a person so high up in politics talk so honestly and openly. And of course, it feels to some extent like praising the bare minimum, but I was talking with some youth today about it, and unfortunately, they all agree. Sometimes you just have to celebrate it, you know? But other than that, it was great talking to her, and I definitely made sure the questions were a little bit focused on what I've been focusing on. But hopefully I'll be able to get in contact with her again, because she's going to be here a few more days. And if there's anything else you guys would like to hear about from her, I will try my best to ask her.
Wonderful. Michael, can we depend on you again?
Here we go.
So I just want to talk a little bit about your experience at COP, what's been going on. So I've been collecting a lot of information about what the youth are feeling, what Indigenous people are feeling, and now I'm honored to be able to talk with a representative about what you're thinking, especially with Joe Biden just making his remarks and with Nancy Pelosi recently speaking. What's going on in your mind about this?
Well, first of all, let me say that I'm honored to be with you here, and I chair the House Select Committee on the Climate Crisis, which is a committee when the Democrats took control of the Congress years ago that Speaker Pelosi organized, and she tasked us with coming up with a climate action plan for the Congress to help with climate ambition, moving to clean energy, moving to adaptation, climate justice, environmental justice. We issued a major report. It has now become the basis of the climate law that was passed in the Congress this year, called the Inflation Reduction Act, which is a funny name for the most historic investment in climate in the history of America. It's the bill, it's the new law that's going to move us to solar energy, to wind energy, to energy efficiency, to cut costs for consumers, put money back into their pocket as they buy electric vehicles over the next decade, as they replace appliances with energy efficient appliances. So here we've come to this COP now, finally, with climate action in hand, because there's been a lot of talk from America, not a lot of big action. But now with President Biden's leadership, with the Democratic House and Senate, we were finally able to deliver what people have been asking for and what youth activists across the country have been demanding, and that's addressing the climate emergency.
And I was talking to you earlier about the initiatives out of Vanuatu and the ICJ and all of that with the UN. And I recently went to a panel where I believe the head of the Amnesty Project, she was talking about the importance of writing law with history in mind and with the past. And I wanted to know, what are your feelings about like the history of America going back centuries and how it relates today and how it should affect whose voices are being heard?
Well, you know, history didn't start in America in 1776. We have a rich, deep history on the continent of North America, and oftentimes, we deal with politicians right now who want to kind of erase history and do not want to be inclusive. For example, we have to grapple with the fact that in America we enslaved people who came from Africa, and we're still living with the injustices today because of that. We had an unfortunate history in America where we wiped away indigenous tribes. We have to live with that history, but not just understand it, but we have to make amends. We have to realize that we have a moral responsibility to lift up everyone and try to right some of those wrongs. And fortunately, we have a president, President Biden, who has said, all right, in all of the investments in clean energy and tackling pollution, 40% of all of those investments will go to frontline communities, indigenous communities, to try to make sure that we're building, we're living up to our values in America. Equality and justice, they're not just words, but they really mean something.
And all of the investment in those frontline communities, I heard somebody say the other day, it's always they're on the front lines, not the front page. Are those investments going to have like intermediary aspects, or are there going to be funds and projects going directly to these communities?
Yes, the way the Inflation Reduction Act and the new Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act were written, that a lot of those monies and grants can go directly to communities. For example, sometimes it's a problem when money comes to the state of Florida and you try to get it out of the state capital to Tallahassee to the people, the cities and towns and the tribes. So we intentionally directed many of those funds directly to communities. Now, one of the challenges is many communities on the front lines or that have suffered environmental injustices, they don't have the capacity to write grants, to go to Washington, D.C. and fight for those dollars. So we've added some capacity building initiatives, and now it's our responsibility to work with everyone to deliver.
That's great to hear. And you have a few more days at COP, and I know they're going to be very action-packed, very full. What do you hope to see out of your next few days here?
We hope that the Inflation Reduction Act, America's new climate law, is an inspiration to other countries across the world to raise their ambition. But we also know that America has an outsized responsibility to the vulnerable nations, to the impacted peoples of the planet. So we intend to really engage in that conversation on how we can use our technology and our resources to help lift up everyone and, again, make amends for what has happened in the past.
It's honestly great to hear a politician say that, especially with my history of the lawsuit and grappling with Ron DeSantis himself and previously Rick Scott. And I really hope we can see some good leadership from people, and it's really inspiring to see what you're doing and to see Joe Biden here giving his remarks. And is there anything finally you'd like to say to our viewers, mainly university students, about maybe some hopeful note? Because anybody who's been watching what I've been saying is all very pessimistic. So do you have anything hopeful to say?
I would like everyone to know your power, know your political power. Oftentimes, young people, they protest and they get involved, but they don't vote. They don't run for office, and now is the time. It's time for the next generation of leaders to step up and to make change and to hold politicians and leaders accountable. And I trust that you will do that. I have faith in you and your generation.
Appreciate it, and thank you. That is Kathy Castor, and I am Val Holly Frank signing out.
Incredible. Holly, do you have any take on what you would expect out of the current negotiations ongoing on behalf of the U.S.?
Yeah, honestly, I was able to watch Joe Biden's speech. It was kind of ridiculous. I was in the building over watching it on my computer because it was so packed. And it was just, I wish there was more action because we would be such a leading nation. We hold so much power. And if there was actual very strong climate action from us, it would be amazing. But of course, there's too much money in the fossil fuel industry and the military for any of that to happen. But I guess I can remain hopeful. But at the same time, realistically, what I want to see happen and what I want to see the US doing is just too much to ask with the current climate, current climate. But maybe representatives and politicians like Kathy Castor will affect some really positive change. And I was actually talking to her, and she was talking about her meetings with Joe Biden and talking with different representatives from all over the world. And that honestly did give me a little bit of hope, because although it doesn't seem like it sometimes, there are people still fighting for us.
Let's hope for that. Michael, you have some materials for our audience tonight?
Of course I do, because I recorded the video. You just seen the interview with Kelly Kester. So if you are up to, I'm pushing the button again, and I'm going to share some of my images.
Please.
So like Val Holly mentioned, well, let me start all over again. Today I will try to show some of the images of my journalism or press war, because here I have the press pass thanks to Florida Media Group LLC. So let me give you a short overview of my journalism work here. So I didn't really start very early today. I actually didn't. I finished very late last night, because I attended this reception where Kathy Kester invited us, and with Val Holly we did there the interview. The event took place in Sharm el Sheikh Museum, and there was also some heritage event going on. So you probably heard in the interview the music in the background. That was from this group, but from this band. People were then dancing, and it ran really late. So as a journalist, I had to stay there. So I had to photo document it. Just a side note, as a journalist or a photographer, I got a chance to get to the reception a little early. So could hang out with Kerry Custer and all the delegation, and they are just normal people. So once they visited the museum, they walked to the souvenir shop and spent maybe 15-20 minutes there picking the souvenirs. Here they are probably picking a papyrus. So bringing some gifts back home, and they were very nice and friendly to the local people. So there were also photos being taken all together. And only then, after the shopping was done, then the real event, the heritage event started. So also it was scheduled to start at 6:30. It didn't really start until like 7:45 or something, but it didn't matter at all. Now, I want to give you also a quick overview of the media center because you as observers cannot really get there because you don't have the appropriate badge. So this is how the media center looks like. It is very nice. We have here everywhere these screens where you can see what at least 8-9 feeds from 8 or 9 rooms simultaneously. So you see what's going on and you get alerted when something important is happening, and then you just go and run there. I had a look just in the back, and although this looks like a huge mess, I would say that the internet and the services here, they work really, really well. The support staff manage that, but the internet works like a charm. So here would be a quick overview of the floors, because the media or the press center has two floors. This is the first floor where I spend most of my time. It looks kind of like a public library where we all have small desks, and we have we could use the computers here. We have also the wired connection, so that's pretty good. Some people are sitting here all day long. These guys in the black shirts, the action t-shirts, they are from United Arab Emirates, and I've been here 9 a.m. I leave 9 p.m. and they are here non-stop. They are here every single day. This is the view we get from the press media. It always attracts me. I want to go to see the desert, but I'm here not for fun, but for work. Once again, just general overview of this would be the general overview of the first floor, and this is how it looks on the ground floor, because that's where the big TV stations and big radio stations are located. They all have these cubicles, I would say, so separate space just for them. And that's where they work. So I get a glimpse here and there to see how it looked like there, but it's similar to what is upstairs, except that they have the closed space, so they have more privacy and they have more time for their meetings. And this would be the other part of the ground floor where not so rich TV stations and radio stations are located. They have better equipment there, but not as good as BBC or CNN with their own cubicles. When I walk around there are many journalists, and I always get amazed what sort of technique they brought with them. It's heaps of cameras and lenses. It's amazing. I'm kind of thinking I should switch my what I'm focused on and really just focus on photography 100%, because when I see all these techniques, I get amazed. One little downside is that the press area is accessible only for the people with the media or the press badges. So if you want to do an interview and you want to do it with, let's say, an observer, they don't let these people in. So if you want to do interview like that, you have to go outside. Observers are simply not allowed. What we do is we go outside, we record the interview, and then we run back to the press center or media center and edit it there. Here on both floors, there is also this ICT support staff. Young people, I would say very well technically educated. And I arranged this photo. I asked these two girls pose there for me because I saw the black boxes behind them. I saw all the electricity signs. So I asked them, could you please pose there and pretend you do something? Because I was thinking these were big servers. That's what was my idea. And then they looked at me, hey, silly, these are coffee machines. So then we moved to printers where I took images of the same girls again, but now it looks more techy, so it's not with coffee machines. We also have in the media center a WhatsApp group where all the journalists get alerted when some important event is happening. So, for example, I got a message today that there was a press conference for the U.S. congressional delegation. So this would be Senator White House from Rhode Island heading towards the press conference. And he would be in the press conference room delivering his remarks and speech. And eventually 2 other U.S. senators, which would be Senator Cardin for Maryland and Senator Markey from Massachusetts, showed up there and delivered their speeches there, or the press release there. We also got a chance to ask. So we were able to deliver some questions. I didn't ask, I was mostly taking photos. But it was interesting to see that the journalists got a chance right away ask questions, and it was not something that would be somehow censored. It was just very, I would say, honest questions and also kind of boiling questions. Finally, once we got out here, I met Esteban and we approached, I believe this is one of the assistants from Senator Cardin, and we asked them about the interview. So we will see if that works out. We might have something of this sort for you, hopefully in the next coming days. Unfortunately, Senator Cardin wasn't available right away. He preferred to give an interview to one of the Egyptian national TV stations. So here are at least few images from the interview of Senator Cardin, which you might see on TV tonight. So there will be images like this on the Egyptian TV tonight. When I went out of the press room, Esteban again approached me, asked me to edit some videos, some of the interviews. I was very busy with my other things. I wanted to do edit my photos and edit my videos, but I'm here also to help. So at least we found a minute to take a selfie like that. Also, I was not very happy with Esteban asking me to help him. Of course, I happily help him. And then finally, I ran away to the media center, and about 3 minutes before our stream started tonight, finished my set of photos. So very, very busy day. So after day like this, I am almost tired like this guy just in this photo, but I don't want to end with this photo. I want to end with this photo, just a general view of the press center. Because also I'm super tired, and as you might see, I'm really having 2 sweaters on me right now, and I'm freezing. It's so cold here. It's so much fun to work here in the press center, and I want to thank the Florida Media Group for helping me to get the badge, because it's tiring, but it's so much fun to be here.
Thanks, Michael. There will be far more videos to help me along the way. You know that my abilities in editing are null. With that, we have one.
Let me allow. Fortunately, I have the press badge. You don't, so I can always hide in the press center.
Oh yes, and I wouldn't be able to enter.
And you won't be able to go after me there.
With that, we have one final piece of material. We have the whole conference of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi at the Resilience Hub here at COP27. The whole conference is half an hour. We have approximately 12 minutes, and we wanted to at least show 10 minutes of that conference to give you an idea of how this event looks in the ground, what content does it have, and essentially just use it as a way of giving you an idea of what's going on at the pavilions every once in a while. I apologize in advance. This wasn't filmed with a tripod, and again, journalists are ruthless. So I did my best to capture the best image, the best frame possible. Yes, please take a look here. I'll show you my screen. This hasn't been edited yet, so I'll just move to the best to the point at which we had at least a good frame. You have Katie Castor and you have Nancy Pelosi here. Can you all see this? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Take a listen. Sorry, I'm being notified that there is no sound. Can you all hear the video?
Unfortunately, we cannot, or at least I don't hear anything. But to help you out a bit, I am seeing some of the questions that we are receiving on YouTube. If you will, can I place the questions?
Yes,
Here,
I'm sorry in advance about that. We'll have to edit and showcase the video through something else on my computer. Because it's evidently not working.
well, it was working, but you know, journalism is a tough discipline, so you need to get it properly edited. But going back to the question, and I see on YouTube, we have a Rhonda Roth saying, today was an agriculture and adaptation day, correct? Both so relevant for Florida. Any helpful insights for us at ground zero?
Any actual insights? Holly, Michael, were you able to attend any of the talks on agriculture?
I was not, because what I attended seemed to be either science or mostly it was science today. There was NASA presentations I attended, and relative to agriculture, I didn't see almost anything. There was something, I believe it was in the Tanzania pavilion, but it was pretty crowded, so I did not go there. So at this point, I cannot really offer anything super helpful simply because I did not attend any of these sessions today. What about you, Valholly?
I actually didn't get to any agriculture sessions today either. I've attended a few previously, especially ones from the Food and Agriculture Pavilion. And of course, there have been some talks from the Indigenous Pavilion about agriculture. But today, it never seems like the themes of the day are really that enforced or followed, at least by the pavilions I really follow. But yeah, it was just the basic things that you would hear from the Indigenous pavilions about the importance of keeping the agriculture, making sure it's local to the region and small scale agriculture rather than monoculture. And from the Food and Agriculture Pavilions, it was talking about some of the science and just the very basic facts of agriculture. But I believe there will be a presentation coming up from one of the pavilions about agricultural effects and what we see from satellites because of it.
And one more insight, I also attended one of the presentations in the zero carbon future, which there was a panel which included a few of the senators, and there was also Kathy Castor on a panel, and the topic seemed like appropriate for yesterday, because yesterday was the decarbonization day, and the topic was policy for power sector decarbonization. So I wouldn't say that the theme of the day is followed in all the pavilions. There are simply some overlaps where the topics are overlapping.
But we'll sure to try to follow up with some material on agriculture in our next editions. With that, Michael, I may try to do one more time with the Pelosi video. Let's see if you can listen this time.
Which has in it $370 billion we address the climate crisis, get over that. Their children.
Well, Esteban, I am also getting some messages that the sound has improved, but not that much. So I suggest that we will try to edit the sound and edit the video. At least you see how hard it is to work in the journalism sector.
Yes, sorry, folks. We'll have to do that. This video was recorded in a room that is essentially crowded, and I was quite far away from the scenario, and there was some surrounding noise. So we'll have to edit that for you and probably showcase it in another edition. But with that, sorry for the technical difficulties. This has been the edition of November 12th. Tomorrow we have a day in which there won't be activity here at COP27, but we'll connect and give you some other material that we have available. Thanks to everyone, and we'll see you next time.